Silence and stillness can only exist in your mind, especially if one is ignorant, and therefore, through ignorance, they become compliant and complacent. See, everything in this universe has a certain vibration, therefore, everything is very lively. But through Christianity and usually religion, death has been promoted as the ultimate thing. Nowadays, you even have things that are so-called beyond death. So many things, highlight demons and so-called undeads. Even in video games, they seem to be overpowered, right? Overpowered. They seem to be overpowering to the other factions, classes, or whatever they are, because they sell. And you even have expressions in the dead of night, right? Because in ignorance, you're basically dead. Ignorance means you're disconnected from your feelings, therefore your psychological aspect, and from emotions, therefore your emotional body. And when you are disconnected from these, you're technically dead, because, well, while you are living biologically. See, there is a quote that says a lot of people die by the age of 17, 18, because this society kills them mentally, psychologically, emotionally, and well, they become disconnected, but they're usually buried when they are 60, 70, 80 probably, depending on how much they live. See, why isn't there an expression in the dead of life, right? Because it may seem very, awkward and antagonical, but when people are ignorant, well, basically they are dead in life, right? Because if you're mentally, emotionally, psychologically disconnected, you're technically dead. Your body is still alive. It's performing all its miracles, all its beauties, right? All the intelligence of the universe is developed and, well, manifested through the physical body, but people are simply not knowledgeable. When you're ignorant, you're unaware of anything around you. So basically, it's the same thing as when you don't know. People, especially in the Western world, have ended up confusing their own imagination with science. Because science is difficult. You can be a scientist and work for 40 years, but almost no one is ready to accept that you can actually work that much and not discover anything. Just because you're a scientist, it doesn't mean that you will discover things. Now, especially through the pandemic and the such, we've seen that a lot of things have been just pure imagination and, well, the truth will always bubble out, and we see that. Technically, a lot of the science that was promoted through mass media is basically more or less fantasy. So how much of science can we actually believe in, right? At a certain moment throughout our history, well, throughout our entire history, people said that space is very calm, right? It is basically the dead of night. It is still, and stillness can only exist inside of you, and you can only achieve that in a conscious way. When you arrange all the energies, right, all the unconscious behaviors of the energies within. You cannot control the unconscious impulses of energies within you, but you can make sure that they don't influence you that much. And when that chaos is restored, right, then stillness can exist. But I assure you that the galaxy and the universe together, they are very noisy. They are very alive. Why don't we have any expression like in the life of day, right? Which would be the extreme opposite of dead of night. I assure you that the night also is very alive. Just because we don't see too many things at night and we are not aware of things, it doesn't mean they don't exist. But lack of knowledge makes it feel as if everything beyond what you know doesn't exist. Everything beyond what you know is basically dead. So death is also highly promoted because it promotes fear, right? Fear of the unknown. That which is unknown is always going to inflict fear to the mind. Think about intuitive people. They don't make much sense, don't they? Because intuition means bypassing the mind. And when it does so, see, the other ones who are slaves of their own mind and slaves of meaning, therefore, they will simply fear in a way those they cannot read, those they cannot understand, because they don't make any sense. And that is the greatest fear of the mind, that it cannot comprehend something. If you have such fears, they're not yours. You are the video camera that simply records everything beyond all the natural impulses, right, of the physical body. Why do you need to attach yourself to those? You're just a video camera recording. You're basically a simulation of mass media. They don't just send you the news, they send interpretation of the news, which is basically, a violation of their role. The purpose of so-called mass media is to manipulate, because media comes from the Greek Medea, the goddess of deceit. But the real purpose of, news presenters, not forecasts, because that means that they will predict you the news, not present you the actual news. See, there is a lot of mumbo jumbo in English. Why do you have the news forecast, right? Are they predicting the future, just like a lot of people are, when they say there's gonna be new events and such? How can they predict things unless they probably know them, right? So in this dead of silence, right, where nobody is speaking about anything but great plans are being unfolded, see, this is basically what silence is. If you don't know about something, that subject is silent to you because you don't know how it functions, where it is, where it functions, and such. People didn't know that, the universe is very noisy, so they said it is very silent, right? Because they thought that everything beyond this so-called life, which we were never taught how to live in the first place, they thought that everything is dead, right? Because what can you expect from some people who believe that there is a bigger human beyond the clouds and is gonna do nothing else than simply control you, right? Through occultism, you can so-called predict the future because you can see the impulses, right, of energies and how they develop. That is how a lot of people could create the so-called Bible, right? As I've been saying in previous videos, this is not a prediction of the future. It is just a presentation of how certain people would try to control the future, right? If you're wondering how some people 2000 and so years ago could predict aircrafts and such through so-called visions, well, it is because through occultism you can actually do that. Through certain levels of it, obviously, highly advanced. And obviously, imagination is also a thing. So, a lot of people needed a lot of imagination to create the Bible as well for the masses. But when the masses were in the dead of night, which means ignorance, by the way, well, the point is, everything could have been installed to their minds. Why do you think school wants to keep children ignorant? Because they are easier to predict if they are ignorant, and they are also easier to program. When we live in a sick society, everything is all about loneliness. As you can see, social distancing, right? A lot of anxiety has been created. People don't trust people anymore. And well, they're all so invested in the technology that exists, right? Which kind of predicts of the so-called zombie apocalypse, right? Imagine the internet being shut down for a few days. What will the people do who are dependent on Instagram and such? So if there is dead by night, right, or a dead of night, I kind of demand that there is, in the life of day, right? Because we see the light as our savior, but the light can also blind you if you're not attentive enough. And we see the life as being bustling when it is, sunny outside in the day because we can see things. But nowadays people are also too ignorant to observe that. If you are unable to read and feel life as it goes in you, well, it's always going to be the dead of night, because that's the problem with ignorance. Everything that you don't know does not exist. That is why a lot of people become entitled, because they can't believe something else than something that they get attached to. All this being said, you are appreciated, take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Ferenc Board signing out.